Brian, one thing that you said kind of triggered something in my mind, and something that you said was pretty interesting. Um, and you talked about some, Dabo talking about the turnovers, right? So there was an interception. The last scrimmage, they did a lot of ones versus twos. According to Dabo, the offensive line and the defensive line, the first team did exactly what they were supposed to do against the second team. So that's encouraging news. Not encouraging to hear there were three turnovers. One was an interception, one was a fumble recovery, and the other fumble was recovered by the offense. So they got it back. But there was three times they put the ball in harm's way, at least, right? So that's not encouraging. One of the other things, I want to flip it to the other side of the ball and talk about defense, right? I talked about there are questions along the defense, although us as Clemson fans, because of top 10 after top 10 defensive performance over the past, I don't know what, 15 seasons it's been now, or whatever it's been, right? We give the defense the benefit of the doubt. There's been some injuries come out of camp, namely Shelton Lewis and Jaden Lucas, right? Those two guys went into fall camp kind of competing for that second cornerback spot, right? We got Avion Terrell. He's locked in. He's cornerback number one, right? Cornerback number two is kind of up in the air. Is it going to be Shelton Lewis? Is it going to be Jaden Lucas? Which one's going to be healthy? Well, both of them, according to Dabo Sweeney, are still currently day-to-day. So my question to you guys is, and my question overall for the defense, are we going to have to end up – we're already leaning on young guys. Shelton Lewis is a young guy, true sophomore, right? Jaden Lucas, he's not a young guy, but he doesn't have a ton of experience because he's just not been available, right? So are we going to have to rely on true freshmen? And we're talking Ashton Hampton, Corian Gibson, Tavoy Fegan. Are we going to have to rely on guys like that in the secondary and possibly not be as buttoned up in the secondary as we think we might be in the 2024 season? What are your guys' thoughts on these injuries and some of the questions at the cornerback position for the Clemson Tigers heading into 2024?
Yeah, you hit on it. I think for the long term, I mean, you have to feel really good about the room as a whole and kind of where the talent is. I mean, and the stuff you're hearing, about Ashton Hampton, Corian Gibson, Tavoy Fegan was, being an early enrollee, he came in really ready to go, while Gibson was recovering from a torn ACL. The long term, prospects for this group is really exciting. So I think that I want to put that out there. But obviously, you don't have a chance to kind of break in these, these young guys. And not to bring it back to Georgia, but that's just the reality. And really just the front part of your schedule. You have such a front loaded schedule. So yeah, I mean, your depth is going to be tested, and that's something to watch. The last time we had young corners thrown into the fire, Wake Forest put up 48 points in double overtime. That was not a fun experience. I don't know if Georgia's receivers are A.T. Perry and Donovan Green, but they have some talent at receiver now, and they have Carson Beck, who I think is one of the top quarterback prospects in the draft, throwing the ball. You're not going to have a chance to really kind of break them in. They're going to get thrown to the fire. They're going to be facing some really, really talented pass catchers. So, I do think that's something to monitor. If especially if Lewis and Lucas can't go, I suspect Lucas will be good for Georgia, but Dabo, he's never going to tip his hand. But we've all listened to him for a long time now. You can kind of pick up when he's less optimistic about certain things than others. And he didn't sound as hopeful about Shelton potentially, being ready to go for that game. We'll see. But, with these lower body injuries, they always seem to linger. But Brian, what do you think?
I mean, Tavoy Fegan was the Khalil Barnes of the 2023 spring game. I said that really poorly, guys. I should just stop.
I get what you're saying.
In 2023, Khalil Barnes put on a clinic in the spring game. And a lot of people says that the spring game, spring practice, this, is glorified. Means absolutely nothing. Well, I hate to tell you, you're wrong, because it predicted a lot of the coming season. It also did in 2022 as well. The good thing for us, if that works out again this year, is that Tavoy Fagan put on a clinic this year, and it reminded me a lot of Khalil Barnes. Of course, Gibson is highly touted coming in. I would say that obviously, they're going to get picked on if you have to put them in the game. But I believe that they'll actually go up there and play hard. And when you have a field general like Mickens in the back, you can trust him to help them, coach them, get in their head, talk them up. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like Barrett Carter's going to do to Sammy Brown. He's going to, even though Sammy Brown is this highest rated linebacker we've ever signed, he's going to get into his head. He's going to be like, hey, dude, I'm glad you're great and stuff, you and your hair, but I'm running things. And Mickens is going to do that same thing in the back. And so we just have to be ready to go. But I really feel good about Fagan. I look forward to see Gibson playing. But, a lot of people talks about, like you said, we have to go back to the Georgia game. Folks, you know why we go back to the Georgia game? It's the first flipping game, and it's the number one team in the country. It's a team that last year was 3 points away from their 30th consecutive win and another trip to the college football playoff. So it's not like we're over here secretly wearing G's on our underwear. It's because this is the first game, and Lord knows I would rather start off with Stanford, and play against a team that's really good at a spelling bee. But we're not. And we're having to start off with the top team in the country, at least so far. And I think it'll be a good test for him. And again, I trust Mike Reed to have him ready. So, I mean, Mike Reed has proven himself over and over again. So I think between he and Wes Goodwin, they'll have these guys ready. Obviously, if I'm Georgia, I go after them, but I believe that they'll have a package set up for that. But hopefully, we can see Shelton Lewis get back in there. We can see Jaden Lucas get in there and not be at 70%. They can't play 70%. I'd rather start the freshman.
Yeah.
Than a 70%.
Jimmy Gibson. If
throw them in there.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I think you guys make a lot of good points about our defensive back position, and I couldn't agree with you more, Brian. Mike Reed gets the benefit of the doubt, every day of the week and twice on Sunday with me. That dude is proven time and time again that he can identify talent, and then he coaches them up and they produce on the field in a big way. Just go look at NFL rosters.
I mean, he's so good that he's turned down Georgia, multiple times. Kirby. Multiple times. So even including this past offseason. So it's like, I'm with you guys. Mike Reed gets the benefit of the doubt, but it is certainly an interesting position. With the because Lucas and Lewis are kind of the primary guys competing for that second cornerback spot. And not to mention, Miles Oliver. He's a guy that hasn't played much, but obviously he's out for the year, so that hurts your depth a little bit. So we'll see kind of how that, sort of coalesces. But, that's kind of my, we kind of hit on it. That was kind of my biggest question for the defense in the short term, as far as heading into the season. We could talk about defensive end, but I think corner is definitely the most interesting one, just at least from a health standpoint. Ashton Hampton gets the most snaps out of any of the freshman defensive backs, BYOG or so.
I'll buy. Out of the freshmen, I'll buy. Just because of the stuff that I kind of talked about before about Ashton Hampton and just where he's at physically. He's just a physical specimen at this point. So I think he has the greatest potential physically to get on the field. And if Mike Reed can get him spun up from the mental side and really understanding his assignments, I think he has. And also because of the injuries. And the constant unavailability of Jaden Lucas, unfortunately, over his career, and Shelton Lewis being banged up for a lot of fall camp. I think Ashton Hampton definitely has a potential to get some good snaps this season, and hopefully he can handle the workload.
Oh, and I just thought about how I phrased the question. When I said freshman defensive backs, I was thinking just the freshman corners. But how would you, this is kind of cheating or kind of doing a double BYOG or so, but how would you feel if I included the freshman safeties in that conversation? Noah Dixon, Ricardo Jones, like, would that change? Do you still feel like Ashton Hampton would be the one that gets the most snaps?
I still feel slightly that Ashton Hampton would get more snaps just because the depth at that safety position. I just don't know how many opportunities. Although we've heard great things about the freshmen and how they flashed at times in fall camp. I just don't know how much opportunity they're going to get because of all the depth and the really veteran guys that are in that safety room.
I think I'm with you. Yep. BYOG.